we'd like to thank you for your participation and express our joy for such an important moment of studying, sharing experiences, and learning about Spiritist education. This event has been organized by the Children, Youth and Family area of the International Spiritist Council, aiming to strengthen the union and unification of the Spiritist movement for the sake of heart's regeneration and the construction of a new world. The ISC Children, Youth and Family Area, affectionately called CYFA-ISC, is responsible for promoting the study, practice, and dissemination of Spiritism among children, youth, and families. The CYFA-ISC Commission is currently composed of 13 countries that are working together in an integrated, collaborative, and collective manner in order to put together important actions that we hope will strengthen this blessed and relevant task.
Welcome, everybody. In order to achieve our goals, it is essential for us to keeping ourselves updated for this task. The Seeds of the Future project is one of our actions which purpose is continuing education for Spiritist educators through video lives and workshops. We believe this is a strategic and relevant project for the increasing quality of our actions among children, youth, and families, whether physically at Spiritist institutions or virtually, due to the pandemic situation we faced in these days. This was a project started in the last year, and today we are promoting our number 10 YouTube Live, reducing boundaries and gathering dedicated hearts spread across the world, strengthening us in a common ideal.
This is the 10th virtual meeting of a program to address different and relevant topics to strengthen this task continuously. Our lives today are about talking about family. We are presenting two topics for this roundtable discussion. First, Mirella Campos Lima, who lives in the US, will talk about family's importance in moral education for children and youth. Our second topic, Implementing Family Groups in the Spiritist Institution, will be presented by André Blanchet, who lives in Canada. At the end, we will have a moment for questions and answers. This live, that is in English, has already been developed today in Portuguese and will be developed also in Spanish and Italian in sequence. We have invited some dedicated colleagues who will share their reflections and experiences according to the different topics.
To start our meeting, we invite our friends from BSS Harmony, Daniela Ferrato and Marcelo Ferreira, who will help us to open the doors of our hearts through music. After their presentation, we will have our initial prayer.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here among all of you. I'm Daniela.
I'm Marcelo.
And we are going to sing a beautiful song called Family, Life, and Peace, a composition by our friend Mauricio Keller, who has beautifully sung this in the Portuguese version a few minutes ago. And we had the pleasure of translating it to English. So I hope you enjoy it. Who wants peace anywhere you go? Who wants to feel, vibrate love? Will find in your own family a chance. There is no better way to learn. Their example guides you in every turn. At home you will reveal your true self. precious life and the life that will develop in the womb that has become its newest home. Love your precious life and the life of those who suffer, who are hopeless and no longer want to live. Yeah, it's simple like that. Hold my hand and just smile. Christ has been the truth, the light, blossoming everywhere, representing the greatest law, to relive and to love. Christ has been the truth, the light, blossoming everywhere, and you find in all of us a loving heart to call home. Family unites us. Family is humanity. It's life and peace, love and peace in us. Family unites us. Family is humanity. It's life and peace, love and peace in us. Love and peace in us, in all of us. So be it.
So be it.
Thank you guys for this beautiful song. It's not easy to talk after this beautiful song. We would like to invite you to pray along with us, raising our thoughts to God, Jesus, and the spiritual benefactors who coordinate and inspire the Era of Sowing Love project. Let's close our eyes and imagine the distance between us is nothing once our hearts are truly connected. Dear Jesus, we ask for your guidance, not only during this life, but in the others that will happen in sequence, in Spanish and in Italian. One topic in different languages, but we know the most important one is the language of love. May your love be with us through the words of our guests and through every thought of ours. So be it.
Ela volunteers as a Spiritist educator at the Nosso Lar Spiritist Society in Northern California since 2005. In addition to working with Spiritism for the youth, she has also been contributing to the other areas of the Spiritist Society. In the past, Mirella supported local initiatives and events related to the Spiritist youth education movement with other groups in California. She collaborates with others of the NossoLarKids.com team, as well as with others of the Spiritist movement in the US. Mirella also currently works with a youth education group at the Spiritist Center and Social Activities, and professionally, Mirella is a special education teacher and currently teaches high school students. She's married and is mother to Rafael. We have a Q&A with our guest speakers at the end of each session, so you may start sending your questions via chat at any point during the panels, and we'll answer them as time allows. Mirella?
Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, Silvana, and everybody who is involved in this beautiful project. I'm so happy and glad to be here today because we are going to be talking about a very important topic. And as we have this roundtable, we can give our contribution, but for sure, we exchange ideas and we learn a lot. So, thank you so much for this opportunity again. So, and today we are talking about the importance of parents, right, of the family in the formation of the moral constitution of our children. So, this is very important. It's such a mission as it's written in the Spirit's book in the question 491 when Kardec asked the spirits, what's the mission of a protector spirit? Similar to that of parents with their children to lead them to the right path, give them advice, console them when they're sick or suffering, and support their courage in the trials of human life from birth to death. So this is a definition of, protector spirits. And they compare that to our mission as parents. We are far away from being, involved spirits, but somehow we are doing the same thing here. We give our kids advice, we guide them, we console them when they need, and we give them everything that we think it's the best for them. It's easier to give something that's available somehow, like we give them food, right? We have jobs, so we can provide clothes and they can go to doctors and they have access to good schools and all that. It's easier, to provide these material things. That yes, it's helpful for them, but it's more difficult when we are talking about moral values, right? Because this is something that we are giving them, we are teaching them, but we're still learning, and it can be very challenging because as we're teaching them about forgiveness, about being patient, about doing charity, but so these are all areas that we're still learning. And I know that many parents feel like they don't have the right credentials to do that because they're still learning. We are all still learning. But the thing is, we know as spiritists that there is a reason why we are in this life connected with our children, right? So we have very strong spiritual bonds with them from previous lives. And that we have the right attributes right now to teach them that. Because as we are teaching, we are also learning. So these, you know, moral teachings, it's also an opportunity for us to educate ourselves because it's hard to teach something if you don't have that, right? So, but during that educational process, so we notice that so we're building the strength, right? So we can pass those values for them. And we're all learning. This is something important. As we know, some spirits, some children, they are more evolved than we are. Intellectually, morally, they can be more evolved. But for sure, if we are their parents, there are lessons that they need to learn from us. So there are no mistakes in the divine organization of justice in the reincarnation process. So the law is perfect. So it's a divine law. So we all need to trust that we have the attributes to guide them, to console them, to give them advice when they need it. So this is something to keep in mind. So when you're talking about sorry, so when you're talking about moral values, it's hard not to think about the gospel according to Spiritism because from all books of the Spiritist, um, from Spiritism, from the codification, really the gospel according to Spiritism is where we are going to find all moral teachings, right? Jesus' lessons and parts from the gospel. that we learn about it and we get inspired to change our own actions. So, and then that makes us to reflect, okay, so we're here to guide our children, right, to help them, but how, so what's the best way for me to teach them moral lessons daily? And this is hard because when we go to the Spiritist Center, although we can get involved in charitable activities, still we're talking about the theory, right? So how can we connect the theory to real life situations for them? So Jesus' moral lessons can be more tangible. It's not something vague and something that it's not achievable. So we teach by the example, right? So that's how primarily how they learn. Because as you teach them moral lessons, if you use like children's book, that's awesome. It's an awesome way, to teach them. If you use the gospel according to Spiritism, if you have studies at the Spiritist Center, it's still the theory, even though if you play videos with real life situations, but they want to see daily, those things happening, like people being forgiving, helping others, being merciful and kind and patient. They want to feel love, right, at home. So so that action, the practice, is extremely important. And they're gonna be observing us, watching us. They'll see our actions and they're learning from that. So good actions, great, they become better people. If they see our imperfections, eventually they might also repeat our behaviors. So they learn by copying, also copying what we do. That's why it's so important to think about moral transformation when we're talking about educating them. As Emmanuel says in the Way, Truth, and Life book, um, different ways. When they go to school, they get instruction, but when they're home, it's really when they're educated, right? When you're talking about moral teachings, so this is extremely valid, mainly because they can have like friends who will teach, I mean, wrong ways of living, and that's why we need to keep like correcting them, right? So with my son, with Raphael, for example, so we try to show him the best way of living, how we should behave and in all that. But always we get like also the opposite, behavior, to show him the consequence of bad choice in life. For example, when we're watching a movie, always it's wonderful life, everybody's laughing, you have so many, it's comedy, it's all about good things and happiness in life, and that's awesome. But sometimes we watch movies that here and there are situations like involving drugs or criminals or things like that. I always stop the video, the movie, and we have a quick conversation, like 2 minutes. You see, Rafi? It's a criminal. Look the choice he made in life, and look what's happening. He's in prison. People around him are very sad. He's away from his family and all that. The same with drugs. So whenever there is a situation, that I capture on movies, we stop and we talk about it. So let's reflect about what kind of actions, he had in the past to be in that situation. And I think that's important. Talking to them, it's extremely important. It's another way of addressing that, those values, like talking about uh, maybe when you're driving them to, extracurricular activities, going to soccer practice or music classes, whatever, in the car during lunchtime, dinner time, if you have time, then it's nice, it's important to have those conversations. So a few friends gave me the testimony in the past that for some reason, when they're about to sleep, they start talking. Maybe they're like almost there, right? Going to the spiritual world, detaching from the bodies, their spirits. So they just start talking about things that happen during the day, things that are bothering them, how they feel about some situations. And it's a great moment to talk to them, right? So also during bedtime, to me, I feel like praying is extremely important, because when we pray with them every day, they get the habit, right? And they will carry that for life, for sure, as any other habit. And it's a good moment to teach moral values, because when we pray, we put ourselves in a condition that God is all above us, the good spirits, right? And we put ourselves in a humble position, and it's a good practice in life. So also when we thank God, we we are also practicing gratitude. When we pray for others, we are helping them to realize that we have so many blessings in life. We are so thankful for it, and always we can ask for someone who is in need. And there are many people suffering on earth. So building that conversation is important, even during prayer. Like they can reflect about, there are other people suffering. They develop like empathy, and they're grateful for what we have. So that's a good habit, and it's a lifetime good habit that I think they can keep. Um, so I Yeah, so when we think about moral values, when we think about the gospel according to Spiritism, the sorry, the Sermon on the Mount is a guide, right? It's so beautiful, all the passages about Jesus' speech, and how he shows us how God blesses us, right? When we follow those moral guides, I would say. We're going to be talking about it during, at the Spiritist Center, or during the gospel at home. But in real life, we can always find ways to connect that, right? So when they have a situation at school that they're very sad about, someone said something and they have their feelings hurt, um, of course, we are going to problem solve, give them, strategies on how they can cope with that feeling. But eventually, we're going to say, maybe it's not a good day. Let's forget about it. Let's just move on, and let's forgive him or her. So this is a practice, right? So when we do that, we are talking about blessed are the ones who are merciful, right? The ones who forgive. And so these are lessons that, drops of love, drops of morality throughout the week, throughout the month. They cannot perceive sometimes, they cannot notice, but they are getting those beautiful lessons. When they're irritated, very nervous, and it's hard for them to calm down, we keep ourselves calm. We don't raise our voice, because if we raise our voice, they are learning that they need to speak even louder, right? So we don't raise our voices. We give them strategies. Do you think you can breathe? Do you wanna, walk with mom, or let's read a book together? I see you're irritated. That's fine. All feelings are normal, right? We are human beings, but I know you want to feel better. How can you feel better? So when you do all that, you're talking about blessed the ones who are peaceful, right? It's like embedded that in your words when you do that. Um, yeah, and same thing with humbleness. I mean, when when you talk to them, my kids Raphael, about we need to work hard in life and not expecting like anything else. I mean, that's how life works. We need to love what we do, and we do it, and we do everything that's needed in the job. Um, we are talking about, blessed are the ones who are poor in spirit, right? Being humble. So these are, teachings that it's really in daily life. So parents are the only one who can do that, right? I mean, teachers can help, but we actually parents every day, working with them, we can do that. And just, I would say, another way of teaching moral lessons for them, just spending time with them, quality time with them, going to the park, traveling, if you can, and just having good moments. And a very good moment of uniting the family is during the gospel at home. So one day, you just reserve one day weekly at the same time for like 20 minutes or half an hour. So you can use the gospel according to Spiritism and read the passage. If they cannot understand, you read just some sentences. Or you can have children's book with moral lessons too. That helps. And then it's when you have a conversation, and you reflect about these teachings in life. Again, connecting theory with real life situations. This is um, something important. So another thing that I'd like to share is that some people ask when is the right moment to start like talking about spiritism and mainly moral lessons, right? And sharing moral lessons with them. It's really when, mother's expecting, so you're already connecting with them, when you're rubbing your belly, when you're talking to them, they can listen, they can feel the vibrations, right? The good vibrations. And they're learning about affection and all that. And yeah, when they're babies, when you say, when they go and they try to, tap a dog, for example, and you say, oh, be gentle, something like that. So you're teaching about being peaceful and being kind, right? So there is not really any time when they're alive, it's time to teach about moral lessons because they catch everything, right, that we do, everything. So it's not about what we say, it's not just about how we behave, but sometimes even our facial expression, our body language. If someone comes and says something and you roll your eyes, or you don't treat the person well just by showing your body, they'll get that. They'll get that you are not being kind just by watching to your body language. Um, and I think that's it. The beauty of morality, if I could just finish with that, I think the beauty of the morality is um, as it states in the gospel according to Spiritism introduction part. It's that morality is the common ground of all religions, right? All cults, and that's the beauty of that. So sometimes I feel like I imagine if there is a village in from the above, we could see people from all religions together, different houses, Muslims and Catholics and Spiritists and Protestant, all living to everybody in your houses, right? Because we have different beliefs, but everybody in a village, for sure, doing charity, um, doing good things, the morality. So it's really the common point, like the meeting place where everybody goes, everybody celebrates, like doing good things, everybody respects each other, everybody's kind. Nobody asks, who you are or what you do in life or whatever. Everybody just needs to do good things. And that's the beauty of morality. It's really, put us all together as brothers and sisters. And it's important that our children to get that, they will notice that. The strong connection that they can make with other people with the same kind of beliefs that we do, that we have, but also there is a plus, right? Because it's not about just the morality itself, it's not just about doing good things, but it's really the other belief that we have, the immortality of the soul. We believe in God, about reincarnation, and all that will also give us strength through life, so we can go through difficult situations. We are going to perceive suffering from a spiritual perspective. And that's also a gift for them, not just the morality part, but also all other aspects of spiritism. It's just a gift that we can give them. So, um, yeah, so that's uh, exercise of love, the law of love, because we're all so we are all so selfish. Each one of us, that God gave us the opportunity of being here united with people who we love, so we can learn more about love and we can share love with others and we can help other people so we can be less selfish and more loving, right? So I think this is an important point when we talk about family, just being united, being together, being closer, and we need to strengthen those bonds of love with people who are around us, our family. So I think the more we do that, it helps our kids to feel loved, feel that they belong to a place that it's always safe, and that they can build many good things in life because they have this strong foundation that's the morality of Jesus Christ. So I think I talked for like 20 minutes or so. Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Mirella. I have so many things to think about. And now we are with going with André. I'm gonna
Thank
do
you.
a little presentation about André, but he's vice president of a house which is in French. And this
Yep.
person cannot speak in French, but I'm gonna try. So please correct me with a
Yeah.
lot of charity, okay? So André Blanchet is the vice president of the Centre Spirit, Justice, Amour et Charité in
Parfait, madame.
Montreal. Oh, thank you, merci. He's graduated in engineering and administration, married, and has 3 children. He also was one of the founding directors of the Canadian Spiritist Council. Spiritist since the age of 12. He has been actively involved in establishing the Spiritist movement in Canada since 2000, more specifically in the province of Quebec, where he currently lives.
Thank you. Yeah, I got involved. This is probably a good introduction. Thank you very much, everybody, for inviting me. Um, this is really the first time I'm talking about Spiritism live in English. As you know, in Quebec we speak French. Our house, it's mainly we speak Portuguese, like most Spiritist center around the world is driven by Brazilians. Okay, uh, Spiritism has grown a lot in Brazil for various reasons. But when we look, and my experience when arriving here in Canada and in Quebec, and the interesting thing, it's a French province. So I thought that being French, we would have uh, Spiritism, some kind of Spiritism here in Quebec, which to my disappointment was nothing, absolutely nothing. Very disappointed, and if I was used to go to Brazilian bookstores, and you have a whole section of Spiritist books, and I left almost all my books in Brazil. When I came here, nothing. The only thing I could find was in the bookstore was Kardec's the books of the medium, uh, and it's quite obvious it's not really the best book to start to study about Spiritism, but that was the reality. So fortunately, I was able to find a group of Brazilians, tiny group. Well, I think we were what, five, and this friend of mine, he was doing the gospel at home. So he would. So we took the opportunity. So, oh yeah, okay, why not? Let's go. And we start. And the way we did it, we went from house to house. So one day it was going to be in this friend's house, and the other friend's house, my house, and we were going on turns. Uh, and we were following the gospel according to Spiritism. And in the beginning, we were doing like at random. We open a page, and then we would discuss. It would take an hour, have some lunch, and then go back home. That's what it is. So why I'm talking about this experience is just to because the theme, it's about how to implement uh, a spirit okay, how to implement a family, forgot the name, a family uh, it's family spiritist education in the spiritist house or center. We started very small. We started with the gospel at home, and from there, and because we had kind of an open heart and open policy, every time someone knew about our activities, about the gospel at home, we did it every Friday. We're inviting people in, and the group start growing, and suddenly we couldn't afford anymore to go on each uh, family's house because it was a lot of people. So we had one of our friends. He had like a basement, a kind of a good sized basement, and we decided to continue our studies in the basement of his house. Okay, and that's how we started. We spent like this in the basement of a house, not an official group, not formalized, like an official status within uh, the province. But we were having meetings every week, and it was not a closed meeting. Whoever wanted to come and join, they were more than welcome to join and participate in the studies. It was a round table. At one point, we couldn't have the round table anymore. The table was not big enough. So eventually, we had like to rent a small apartment that was uh, in the same building. It was vacant. So we rented, and it was in our names. It was not official. It was not, what not because it's the we didn't have an official status, but we continued our activities. And 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 now the interesting part about the family, we always had a concern about uh, how do we get the spiritist message or the gospel messages to our children. So at the time, my kids were very young, so they were 4. Danielle was not born yet. Gabrielle, he was 4. Louise, she was 1 year old. Uh, and so while we were coming at each family to talk, what do you do with the kids? You know, they didn't have the age to understand the kind of discussions that we were going on. So what we decided to do, and this was my wife and Pina, Josepina, and they decided to stay with the kids. Okay, so they were basically, that was the first uh, family education uh, with the kids. It started with our own kids at home. Okay, while we're studying at the gospel with, with the adults, we were my wife Anna and Pina. They were taking care of the kids and bringing some activities. You know, so that. As we start growing more, because we never said, okay, you cannot come. Yeah, you can come and join us. Then we start receiving. There was a surge of Brazilian immigration, I think in the after 2000, mid 2000s. Lots and lots of Brazilians immigrated to Quebec. And then we start seeing, because at that time we already had created kind of a website to make sure that we were open. So people start noticing us and finding that we did exist, which is important. So one of the things is that we made sure that we're known very early, and it coincided as well with the movement of getting the Spiritist movement in Quebec. So it kind of forced us to make our home, our Spiritist home, official. So we had to go through the paperwork and finally uh, make us official. Okay, so we started with as a nonprofit organization, and at the same time, the Canadian Spiritist Council movement were in discussion with other centers, because at the time we had Brazilians with other Spiritist center brooming, all unofficial. Then and then we got our status, and we move into that little apartment. That allowed. It's kind of like of the following. It was not planned. It just started growing, and then we allowed we adjusted to the needs of the society, which was the Brazilian community that was just arriving. Okay, so we rented the apartment. Now there was more space, and people felt that they were very welcomed. They got and because we had more space, there were more Brazilians coming in with kids, and so this is how we started. One of the things that we did early in our with our Spiritist Center was, okay, we have our public meetings. It's open, anybody can come, and there was no video conference. People had to come physically. Um, there was this question about the young parents with young kids, and they were always complaining, I cannot come on Friday because I have to take care of the kids. Can either my wife or myself or my husband, but someone will have to take care of the kids. And then we thought, well, there's no excuse for you not to come. What we can do, you come here on Saturday. We're doing that every 15 days, and we were already doing that with our own kids. So we're doing every Saturday. Come along. So we'll have the kids will be accommodated, and I took the responsibility of whatever I was talking on the public meetings on Friday, I was bringing as well on Saturday, sometimes with a small variation to adapt to their needs. Because on Fridays with the public meetings, it's you can talk about everything. You can talk about the Book of Spirits. You can talk about the gospel according to Spiritism. We can talk about all kind of subjects related to Spiritism. So this is the kind of thing that we didn't have at this idea of having a family focused for the parent. You know, that it simply was to accommodate that they would not be able to come on Fridays, and not able, but they could be coming on Saturdays and join the team. So it started all over again. We had this round table with the apartment, and very small group of parents. The kids were accommodated. We started needing like volunteers to take care of the kids. We had started have problems because the kids were in different age, different kind of age band. We had babies up to teenagers, and it's like, okay, who's going to take care and focus, because you cannot talk the same to a 3-year-old or 5-year-old, to a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and a 16-year-old. It's a complete different language. So we needed to start organizing ourselves to accommodate these new people come in. Eventually, we grew up, we grow, lots more people start joining, and that basement that we were no longer using, we had to use again. You know, so we had the parents in the basement of the other house, and the kids in this apartment that we rented. Eventually, the lack of space, we had to find a bigger space, and we rented that space to accommodate a bigger crowd. Now, today, how does it work? We have a space with 6 rooms. Okay, it's rented. We were fortunate to get a good price. This is something that people will be talking. How? Where do you find? I tell you, it was not easy to find, but finally, a friend of a friend, he had this space, and this is when we talk about our good spirits, our good mentors helping out. We found a space, and we were able, like, to start using that space. So we have 6 rooms. Well, it's a kitchen that we use the kitchen as one of the rooms, but it's 6 rooms, and 5 of those we use it for the children, and one, the larger room, is for the parents. Okay, I always had the principle that well, before going there, let me see if I don't get myself lost, because it's very easy for me to get lost. Okay, so again, we moved to a bigger facility because of the needs. It was not that we didn't plan this thing. We just kind of had an open heart to bring it, to welcome the people in. And as the activity grew, we needed more volunteers, which was okay, because we, the volunteers came from the same group that come from Brazil. And one of the things is that the experience of the people coming from Brazil with Spiritism was all varied. You had people that were participating in a Spiritist center in Brazil, and there were new friends coming in because they just knew each other during the immigration process here in Canada, and said, "Why don't you come with us?" Ah, but what is this? So, "Oh, come with us." And then when they start uh, hearing the speeches and the conferences, the round discussions we have, and then they started, well, that's pretty nice, and was really focused on the Gospels. Obviously, we're talking about the principles of Spiritism, you know, the idea that we are immortal spirits, that we are here to learn. Reincarnation is part of a learning process, is part of our experience. And then they start understanding that the core of Spiritism is the gospel, the Christian message. Actually, that's exactly what you see in the gospel according to Spiritism. He really states that uh, in the introduction, that the gospel is the first thing in the introduction, that the gospel can be divided in 5 parts. It can talk about the events of the life of his spirits. I'm talking about the traditional gospel that Christianity looks. So in churches around the world that will look at the gospel like this: the events of life of Christ, the miracles, the prophecies, the words taken by the church on which they base their dogmas, and the moral teachings. And what Kardec says, that the first 4 have always been object of controversies, but the last has remained free from any attacks or criticism of the moral teachings. So that's where uh, it allowed people from different that they were Catholics uh, back in Brazil, came here, met new Spiritists, and start joining, and then they became Spiritists here in Canada. Okay, my principle. Now we're talking about how do we divide the groups. Okay, obviously, I looked at the this family, youth, children, spiritism education uh, website. It's called Spiritism Kids, and I was looking at the way we divide the groups is pretty similar. So we do have the babies and what we would call the nursery. From 0 to 4, I see that they have 0 to 3. It all depends on the number of people you have. We do have the kindergarten, which kind of go between 3 to 6 years old, and we have kids between 6 and 9, 7 and 9, and preteens from 9 to 12, and then the youth are from 12 and above, and then the parents. That's how we divide a group, and we do have, fortunately, a lot of material to cover any group of age. This is something that's fantastic that I can bring from Brazil. That we do have a lot of material in Portuguese. Uh, Doing it in French, it's a challenge, and I imagine that in English is the same thing. You need to translate those to English. In English, is I imagine is going to be a little easier because uh, uh, you have a lot more people that speak English, so it's easier for us to translate the material into English. But in French is a challenge, you know. Um, One of the things is that in France, and in the beginning, we're talking about that is very slow. It's true. There's very little the French, what we call the francophonie. The French, it's very limited. So we have to find ways of translating the material to French, and we're starting to have children coming to our Saturdays meeting that don't speak Portuguese. So we do mix. Our children speak French, so we can, and this is starting on some of the use from some of the uh, at kindergarten to start speaking French, and we just mix the two. It's kind of like a French and English, sorry, French and Portuguese, and the kids understand. And what we're finding is that the kids, when they have a natural tendency to switch between one language and another. So if this kid doesn't speak Portuguese, maybe he's shy to speak Portuguese. Their parents speak Portuguese, so we speak in French. And what you see is that the kids respond in French to him. So, so it's like this is starting. I don't know where it's going to get. If we're going to become French, or if we're evolve into French or not. Now, going back to the parents, okay, uh, we stopped talking about Spiritist education for the youth, or evangelização infantil in Portuguese. We don't talk it anymore. What we always, because we always had the family altogether, we call the Spiritist education of the family. It doesn't matter. It can be a grandfather, it can be a parent, it can be any group of age. It will be, we will have an activity dedicated to these people and the needs of that group of age. You know, so I work predominantly with the parents. Okay, uh, but I did for a while for teens, but it lasted a year because Rosa, she was pregnant and she didn't have time. So I took care of that, and she had to be some medical issues, so she had to be resting. So I took care of the teens for a while. But it's kind of on my age is like 20 years more is not the same. I look at that like this uncle, you know, comes in and talks. It's better to have someone that is closer to the teens group of age. But I talk about my experience with the parents. Okay. Well, first thing, remember that I said that I don't start because we have the public meetings on Fridays. We always said, well, come on Saturdays, but people have to stay. It's not like we never encourage people to leave the kids and go elsewhere. No, that doesn't happen. People come in and they stay because there's an activity for them. So how do I go about it? Do I focus only on family, or I'm more open? This is my personal way of seeing things. It might be different. I had people that's why don't you be more focused with educating the parents how to take care of the kids? Okay. What I found out is that the parents has their own needs. Okay. Maybe one of the biggest thing that they come and is adapting to the new society. There are some parents that just arrived, and the next day they were at the Spiritist Center because they didn't know anybody. So one of the things that we use is really to um, welcome them, and because they start knowing other people that were here, so they can get tips on how to get along. This is part of the social uh, uh, aspect of the center is welcoming the newcomers. Okay. The second, it's really to take care of their spiritual needs. Okay, they cannot come on Friday because they have to take care of the kids. So they come as a couple. They stay. They come together. We don't know their history. We don't know if they had problems in their marriage. We don't know why in the beginning why they were there, but definitely the decision to come to Canada or to move outside of Brazil was motivated by, and it's always there's some spiritual need for growth. Okay, many came as a didn't come from work. Some immigrants came because they found a job. Most of them they went back, but French is not an easy language, so people just leave for a while. But those that decided to come here to Quebec, they tend to be stable. So they come with their own needs. I need someone to highlight if I'm still on my time. Uh, just put on the chat if I'm okay or not, or say, Andre, you're going too far. But talking, so the thing is that I have to take. The principle is that if I take care of the parent's spiritual need, okay, um, they will be better spiritual educators for their kids. So I cannot just focus on the education of the kids, but also to make sure that I cater for their own spiritual needs. So that's why I have all kind of varied discussions with the parents. I can talk about emotions. I can talk about the principles of Spiritism. I can talk about virtues. So it's really open-minded. It's a really open. Sometimes we do a group dynamics. So it's really to make sure that when they come in, they go back with new ideas, refreshed, and then when they get home, they're I'm sure that they're going to be better, but just because their spiritual needs are being attended. I think I passed a little bit, but that's my experience, and I think there will be more questions coming in, which I can talk about that.
We thank our presenters who with so much dedication brought us important reflections about the topics. At this moment, we will begin our roundtable. So feel free to send questions and we will answer. Thank you.
We are starting with a question from Mirella, but Andre, feel free to jump in.
Thank you.
So,
No problem.
Mirella, you reminded us kids and teenagers learn from our examples. As parents, we want to give the best examples, but once we are still imperfect spirits, sometimes we aren't the best models. According to Spiritism, what would you say to a parent that is trying, but is feeling discouragement for being struggling with his or her own inner transformation?
Oh, thank you, Tatiana. So I would say it's a time to strengthen faith, right? And patience. So when we are teaching them moral lessons, so it's hard when we don't see like an immediate kind of result, and we're so anxious because we're putting a lot of time and love, and we don't see that happening right away, and that can be frustrating. That can be very, very hard, very tough. But I would say keep in mind that that we are teaching immortal beings, right? Immortal souls. So it's not only like a child. So we need to be patient with them. Just came to my mind now. So we are doing a project. I mean, there is a project at school that I'm kind of helping too. So they're building a garden. Such a beautiful project, and it just came to my mind now when we are planting. Usually we plant seeds, right? But so it's much better if we think like, oh, I'm planting spinach now, or I'm planting succulents, I'm planting flowers, because it's really we putting all faith that that's going to happen. It's going to be there. So it's not just the seed itself. The same thing with them. We are really teaching immortal spirits. So with that in mind, we are going to give like, you're gonna put pour water with love and all that, and they're gonna blossom. They're gonna show the full capacity of their spirits throughout the years. When they're very small, it's hard. For example, impatience, right, can be perceived as aggressiveness, but not necessarily. Sometimes they're just adjusting. They don't have the expressive language completely developed, and they don't know how to express their feelings. For example, when they have a frustration, the front lobe of their brains also are not completely developed. The executive functions are very limited at that point. So it's hard for them. It's like you have sometimes evolved spirits stuck in that body that limits them. So I think, yeah, it's important to keep that in mind, being consistent with, the boundaries that we set up for them. And I think it's important, and just being consistent. Like with Raphael, we pray every day since he's a baby, and many times in the past, he's like, "No, I don't wanna, I don't wanna pray. Why we're doing this? It's useless." And here, sometimes when I don't, I forget. Then he comes and, "Mom, can you pray? Let's pray today." And that surprised me. So we get, those surprises. So I'd say, yeah, and we need to trust the harvest. We need to trust that we're not alone, that we're doing our parts, that we're all learning, and this is a collective evolution. So we are doing this together, even though we are teaching them, and it's hard because we're talking about a morality that sometimes it's limited for us too, and but the same thing, if you're leading a project, for example, and someone comes and say, do you have answer for this? You'd say, no, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to find out the answer. So the same thing when we are educating them, even though we don't have all tools and we don't have the morality, of course, developed, we can always find ways to get the right tools to be more prepared, more well equipped to educate ourselves and also educate them. So this is important. There are many professionals, psychologists and even speech therapists that they can really share very good, strategies on how they can cope with like irritation and other feelings. And I think that really helps. So trust on the harvest, I'd say, and on the good spirits too. And let's not feel guilty because we're doing our best every day. And it's gonna blossom. They are gonna blossom somehow at certain point, and that's when we feel so happy, right? I mean, every day when we're doing that, we are happy. But when we see like that they're, really showing signs of morality, even when they're teaching us, trying to teach us to say, okay, that's good. Good job. So I think Andre can talk more about it. I think he has three, right? Three
Yeah,
kids?
I have three kids, but I'm going to talk more about the experience that we have with parents on our biweekly meetings. So, for example, if we bring up a theme talking about emotions, because everybody talks about like controlling the emotions. So one of the things is that kids have like we have like kind of a bank account with the kids, an emotional bank account, you know, and then they start taking, and then we stop, and we feel guilty, you know, because we're not able like to control ourselves. Now, as Mirella says, the kids has less ability to control their emotions that we do. The problem is that we adults sometimes we act like kids. We should
Yeah.
we should be controlling our emotions. And depending on the stress, you had like an awful week, you know, and then all kind of demands, and the spiritists tend to be like the nice guy. We try to say yes a lot, and then at one point we get so stressed, and then we come up with a situation that should be taken with kind of a grain of salt, and you step back. The kid is like whiny, and you snap, and you go overboard, and difficult to control the kid. The kid you teaching the kids, then they grow up, they start being so smart and responding to your face. You know, it's like my son. I put him in. I did punish him once to put him in his bedroom. He was 12 years old, and he just turned to me and said, "Didn't Jesus said not to do to others, not to do unto
Oh
others
my
what to
God.
do?"
They
Oh
do.
my God, how do I answer that? You know, how do I answer that? You know, and then I feel like my mom and my dad saying the same thing. It's for your own good, but it's a horrible response. Or
And
anyhow,
Andre, I
yeah,
remember that this
yeah,
week, my daughter and I, we had an
yeah,
argument, and she was late for school.
yeah,
And when we entered the car, she told me, she's 4 years old. She told
yeah,
me, Mommy, you are a good mom. You take care of me, of our puppy,
yeah.
Rusty. You teach kids in our Spiritist institution, but I didn't like that you use a loud voice with me.
Yeah,
You know,
they observe. Now,
they observe.
now in the good thing about the when we put the parents all together and you bring like a round table talking about emotions, these situations come up naturally. People need to
Yeah.
talk. Okay, so they come in because you're at home, you're living your life. It's like work, wake up, work, go back, dinner, and then have to help the kids to do their homework, and you have to make sure that they have the discipline they don't want, and there's a lot of distractions with video games and everything, because my friend has a video game, why don't you give me one? And you give you, and they have no way of not doing that. So that becomes a pattern at home, very difficult to break, very difficult to break. You come and you have to find energy as a parent to cope with your kids, so it is discouraging. Okay, now when you bring this, the intent is not, I'm not there uh, to solve each couple's problems. That's not the idea. But by having everybody together, what will happen is that a couple will see that the other couple has the same problem. Okay, they have the same issues, and so this helps them understand. They might talk to each other. How the question is that how do you cope with that? Okay, first thing is if you're trying to use the same pattern and trying to impose your ideas, he will push back. They're smart people. They're smart spirits, I would say. That's what surprises you when they start developing their language, is how smart, how well they know how to pick your little little. So the thing is that who's the adult? That's a question, and then everybody come. Who's the adult here? You know, it's not them. You know, it's you. You have your frontal lobe supposedly developed to take care of your amygdala, to make sure that. But but and that's part of the growth. It's part of the growth of the parent. Is that you will only know yourself if you get exposed to these things. You get exposed to a very difficult child. You get exposed as a difficult husband, a difficult wife, you know, a difficult sogra, a
Mother-in-law.
difficult stepmother-in-law. And then when you pray, like you pray to God, please God, give me patience. Do you know what He's going to give you? A kid
I
just like
know.
that, for you to learn to, to have patience. You know. So that's but having the parents going together, you see that sometimes you see, oh, my kid's not that bad, you know. You see that they have some issues. It's not like now one of the things that I find with this kind of community that we have in Quebec, it's most of them they immigrated. It's very tough to immigrate to Canada, and everybody has to go through a certain point system. So if you have like a education, it counts as points. If you have a family, if you're married, if you have young kids, all count as points. So you come with a certain. Most of the people would say comes from the A class, a Brazilian A or B class maximum from Brazil. So they do have a good understanding of education. They can study on themselves. There's no problem. So that's different on how. But when it talks about the emotion, it doesn't matter if you come from a poor environment or a rich environment. Everybody feels the same, and that's the whole point. You know, putting all the parents together to talk along. You feel that you're not the only one suffering that. So you get out of the discussion many times not feeling guilty. You only were able to do what you're supposed to do. And I think it was mentioned by Mirella is that um, you're born to the family that you should be born with, you know. So if you're born to an alcoholic father, that's the family that is good for you, you know. Why? Because different bonds. It's an experience that you have to pass, you know, with an alcoholic father. Maybe this father is going to die sooner. That's part of the experience. It's a possibility. It doesn't mean that is going to happen, but it comes with all kind of challenges. Okay, other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, Andre, we have a question for you. What does honoring father and mother mean to Spiritism?
Yeah, that one I will take out of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Okay, the honoring father and mother is the fourth commandment of Moses when Moses brought the law. The two first belongs. It's all about God. The third one is about the Sabbath, and the fourth commandment is about the honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy giveth thee. Okay. Um, Now, one of the things is that when it's a sublime wisdom. Okay. Uh, why the first thing that comes to my mind is why God or whoever spirit passes this laws to Moses at the time. Why did he he imposed that to honor father and mother, because probably they were not doing that, you know. Probably they were that time, it was a tribal society. You probably were letting, should be letting the father and mother abandoned or whatever. Okay, otherwise you wouldn't put in a law to other honor father and mother, you know. uh, Now, when we look at the Spiritism as a whole, as a message, okay, when you one of the core teachings is just justice and charity, you know, and love, justice, and charity is kind of like a one. Uh, so you have to use the golden rule about to do unto others what you're supposed to do unto you. You know, so the first thing that says it's a matter of a charity. It doesn't matter if it's your father or mother or anybody. You would have to act in a charitable way. Okay, the same, but the father and mother, it's more important. First, you have a bond with them, a spiritual bond with the father and the mother. Without them, you wouldn't be here. Okay? It doesn't matter if your father is an alcoholic, your mother is depressive, you know, that's where you should come. There's something that has to be taken care as a family. This is, I don't like to use the word karma, but it's the best word I have. There's something in the past that we have as a family to go through that. Now, what's I've seen happening here in Canada and probably in North America a lot, and in Brazil, we know about that, is because uh, it's a lot of abandoned elders. You know, the kids don't see their parents anymore. They put in a shelter home, and they don't see their kids for ages. They don't show up. You know, I've witnessed this in a hospital recently. My mom had to go to spend some days at the hospital, and there was this old man that was sharing the room with my mom. And this guy, he was seeing me visiting my mom every day. And this old man had nobody, nobody. And he was talking to my mom. And my mom said, I don't know what to do with this kind of guy, you know, with this person, you know, they don't show up, you know. So uh, even though you see, we have this law, honor thy father and thy mother, and the Jewish society, they have to cater for that. It's the law. Okay. Apparently, our laws kind of don't know if we have anything in the system that we're forced to take care of them in the old days, you know, because we think they will have a good retirement, they can take care of themselves. It's not true, you know. We don't know what kind of illness is going to fall upon them, and I'm thinking about myself. You know, we will become old as well. But this is a value that it's about trying to take care of your parents. They were here first. You, without them, you wouldn't be here. You should be really. Is This is my point of view. You really should be taking care of them in the old age. They might be very different from you. That's normal. We're different spirits. We evolve differently. They have different history, family history. They have different upbringings. So we this the spiritist message is an act of charity. We need to respect them. We need to try to understand them. uh, Otherwise, it's not a threat. Is if we don't do our part with our parents, I think we will regret as an immortal spirit, because at one point we will leave this world, and we will leave this world with nothing, only the good and bad deeds that we have. And I'm sure that these, if we do not uh, take care of our father and mother, that will be a bad deed, and we will regret bitterly. Yeah.
I have
It's all
one more
silence, huh?
question. We are thinking. We have one more question from Mirella. What are the main challenges identified in today's family life? Maybe you can talk about North America or.
Yeah, yeah, Tatiana, I think in general, it's the screen time, right? In general, I think the flow of
I
information
agree. Yeah,
overload
yeah,
with a lot of information, and there is a
yeah.
disconnection between what they're experiencing when they do these things online, for example, when they play a game, how fast they can get the rewards, how fast they can go to the next level, how fast they can get great things online, right? So there is a disconnection between that and real life, right? Because so it feels like they're getting the practice of something that's it's not there. It's a moral that's not in real life doesn't work. Like they need to work hard, and they are learning when they're playing games that they do little effort with hands and they go to the next level. They earn one more life and they earn points and all that. So they are becoming impatient because with everything's so fast, right? All
Mhm.
information, they have access to information, everything goes so fast in a fast mode, social media, and how they communicate with each other and how they play games again when they go through the internet, and that's not the reality of life. In life, when they go to the work field, they still need to wait until someone finish a task. They need to wait until the conference call is over. All these morals they still need to build, but I feel like the technology helps in different ways, and we are adjusting, but somehow it's been hard for this, and I think for this generation, and it's been hard to adjust, at home too. So they get more anxious, as we know, with all that, because again, so if they have like a lot of followers, it doesn't mean that they have real friends in life. If they have a lot of likes, it doesn't mean that people really have affection for them. So when they have like a lot of connections online, so that's not how we build relationships in real life. At work they still need to talk to each other, they need to problem solve, they need to just talk, and they're kind of losing the ability of talking and negotiating and problem solving because they're texting all the time. They don't want to get that close relationship with people, and we know. So I think social media in general and having access to games, it's something that's part of our generation, our evolution, right? So it's part of our evolution. It's there, so we need to learn how to handle that. Um, yeah, so I think there is a disconnection between the virtual world and all qualities and abilities that they need to build in real life. And I think that can be frustrating. I think that can increase, as we know, the number of depression, suicide, and anxiety, and it's hard. So I think that's why bringing morality is extremely moral lessons. It's extremely important because they can think about hardworking and being patient and being thankful and building relationship with others and building emotional skills. And so I think we went through the pandemic, right? But people are still like connected in that virtual reality, and there are many positive aspects. But I think socially and emotionally there is a loss, and I think as parents we need to be very aware on creating boundaries for that and just creating moments for the family to be connected.
Yeah, I'm not going to extend myself, but I agree. It's not only about screen time. I'm kind of a mixed generation where
Mhm.
as a kid, I didn't have video games and nothing of that, and suddenly in my late teens, I start having like video games, and the internet was start to, in my 20s. So I kind of in between. I'm I didn't have nothing of that. We had TV, but which was already a problem at the time. Parents were concerned about the time that you spent in front of a TV, watching that silly uh, cartoons. But I agree. It's screen time. I think the most dangerous is something that we as well as adults were learning is how to deal with this amount of data and news that's coming our way, and how to navigate through that. Because if you start looking at Instagram, it's like they pull you like an hypnosis, and this, and then you start when you see it, you were looking for something, is now you're looking for shoes, you know.
Mm,
You're looking for spiritism, and
mm.
suddenly now you're looking for shoes or something else. Now, one of the things that the unfortunately the media doesn't give is the authenticity of your emotions. It's not there, you know. You can you can be someone else. You can be an avatar, and that's I think it's the worst
That's the
thing.
problem. Yeah.
It's be it's it's the fact that you can become someone else that you're not, you know, and this will generate conflicts in the future. So so that's why I think that maybe I was thinking as a side note as a spiritist and going to the family meetings every 2 weeks. It's a way to make sure that you have that physical contact, you know, with people that are different from you. The pandemic didn't help because people had they are kind of fatigue of being online. You know, people can fake that they're there, you know. They're not there. But I think having this physical, and that's the only thing that's surviving today. In our experience, we started to give a lot of the public meetings online. Now we're competing with hundreds and thousands of spiritist centers that are doing the same thing. So, uh, what I found is that the physical presence at the spiritist center, during where you have uh, virtual uh, meetings, it went almost down to zero. And this, I spoke with other spiritist centers, the same thing. Now, what if, to our surprise, the family meetings, we have new groups, you know, coming in. I was surprised to see there were about 30 people uh, in our Saturdays. Right now, it's happening. I'm here for you guys, but otherwise I would be there. So I'm happy that the family groups is something that will keep on going and remove some of that screen time to a real family bond, to discuss the about life, to give that experience that is missing so much, you know.
We don't have a lot of time, but we have another question which is very interesting. Maybe you guys can give us a quick answer if it's possible. How to know if I reincarnated into the right family?
I think I answered that.
Yeah.
I had the thing is, if you're reincarnated, because you might be like uh, I think that's the nature of uh, the reincarnation, is really to get kind of a mix of spiritual experiences, because everybody has to develop something. So if it's patience, you're going to have a very difficult brother. There's a certain values that have to develop, and you only will develop those with a family that has different characteristics, different emotional profiles from each member. Now, if you navigate through that, you're going to develop some things. not always successfully, but this is part of the experience. So it is you're reincarnated there because you have to be reincarnated. That's part of the experience.
And I think it's not just like parents teaching, as I said, so it's collective evolution. So we're learning, I mean, with the right people, and we have no idea what happened in the past, but we know we have a commitment, right, with these, mainly if they're our children. Yes, they're the right ones. Maybe if they we see now imperfections, maybe we're the ones who contributed to that, maybe with poor parenthood in the past, in another life, and now we are here to keep doing, giving the opportunity to do the same task again, and it's a blessing, right? So yeah, we are at the right place with the right people around us, and I think it's better to find ways to, I mean, to have the relationship with people, because people tend to move away, go to another state, go to another country, and that's just easier, right? It's easier. But when you don't have, so when we don't have friction, right? You don't have conflict. So it's just better not have like those frictions in those moments. So everybody's in peace, everybody's fine. So, but sometimes we miss the idea that we are going to have a great life, right? We are going to accomplish many things, but one of the main reasons why we are incarnated is because we have to learn with people who are born with us. So we need to strengthen that bond, that relationship, even though we are not in our countries. So it's important. We have a commitment with them. We learn from them, and it's important. I'll give an example. So I'm connected, very connected with my family, but we noticed, my brother noticed that over time we got it like detached somehow because of the distance, because we are not there during the weekends. And he said, okay, it's not okay. So let's set up this a bi-weekly call. And then we have a Zoom meeting, and we're going to talk as brothers and sisters, and we're going to just talk. You talk about your problem, I talk about mine, and we're going to discuss as a family. And then he put in our calendars, and it's working. And I think it's important to open avenues, just to talk and be connected with them. So mainly mothers, fathers, as you said, Andres. So it's a special commitment that we have, with them. So we need to find ways to be talking to them, meeting somehow, because it's an important part of our evolution. And maybe we are going to, through the whole life, we are going to accomplish many things. But if we don't solve those problems, those conflicts, we will be back again, right? In our next life. And because again, we need to strengthen that's the family ties. So something to keep in mind.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for this interesting conversation and roundtable. Once again, we thank our dear speakers and everyone that participated in this moment with us. May our hearts be fulfilled with joy, gratitude, and love for this task that each one of us has embraced in Spiritist education of children, youth, and family. May our dear Jesus guide us now and forever. To conclude our meeting, let's have our final prayer.
So, with our hearts full of gratitude, we thank our God for one more opportunity to face such an important topic through Spiritism. We are very grateful for God, and may His love can be felt in every corner of this planet and in every heart. May the seeds spread in this life can find a fertile soil inside our hearts to blossom one day so we can bear good fruits. May our God bless us all, now and forever. So be it.
Thank you.
So be it.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. and I'll be glad to talk in the future. Okay. Again, and me too, guys.
Same here. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I learned a lot from Andre. I'll keep those words in mind for the week so we can reflect. And
Thank you as well.
it's always good to see you, Tatiana and Karina. I hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you so much, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.